What up, y'all? Back again with another video about the narcissist and the empath. What lights them up? What lights you up? Where's the motivation? So let's jump in. The narcissist, when it comes to the only thing they give a damn about is that mask. And because that mask is the false self, has nothing but lies, and it's inconsistent, incongruent with all that nature is. Because nature, God's universe and the universal laws that he has put into the foundations of this world to keep this place balanced. Those are kind of like what would be general rules and regulations God put into the foundations of this world that can't be messed with. Well, they should not be messed with. They can be messed with, and it's called witchcraft. And that's what the narcissist is. They embody witchcraft. So regardless of whether you believe in dark energy attachment or they just become the dark energy, period, it doesn't matter. They're one and the same. Whether something's in there that's sentient or there's just them in there, it's so corrupted. And it's corrupted because it's a false self and it has nothing but lies. And everything it tells you is everything they stole. And what lights them up, the only passion they have is to keep their image up and what's related to the image. But the image is all lies and deceit, falsity and thievery. And the thievery comes in because not necessarily are they, if they're not thieves in the physicality, they're thieves in the metaphysical spiritual, because they all do that. So their spirit, they become the spirit of a thief. And it talks about God in Proverbs calling maybe not so much thievery, but unbalanced scales as an abomination. So you could look at thievery as unbalanced scales, where it's always them corrupting the situation to their benefit, to their cause, but their cause is only to make their image look clean while they thieve. And they do it with other people's aura, other people's energy. So they're thieving, if not anywhere else, on an energetic level, but on an energetic level is the worst, because the energetic level consists of parts and pieces of your essence, or them trying to take your destiny, or to curse you with their iniquity while they take your genuinity, or they take your blessing, the stuff you work hard for. And a lot of times it's through witchcraft, because anything that's manipulation is witchcraft. And if they can manipulate you out of your own energy and wear it for themselves, they can benefit off it. They can be abundant and they can hold high places of stature, titles, badges, because people believe the lie that way. And witchcraft is to turn the laws of the universe upside down in their favor, when you can't do that. It's completely unnatural or GMO'd. And that's why witchcraft will always have backfire to it. But it may not be today. And the problem with it and how it affects the rest of us is we have a lot of people that are bunk in positions of power that's not supposed to be there. They're not supposed to be there. They have taken and stolen those places of power through witchcraft, and they have made them lose all standard and integrity. And what that causes is no leaders, and no righteous authority, just leads to more degradation. And that's where we are today. And it's all in relation to witchcraft. And witchcraft is what the narcissist is. They're on a spectrum, fine. So some dive into it deeper than others, but they're all of that seed. And anybody that assists them is a flying monkey, either or an overlapping relationship, same thing. A toxic enabler or flying monkeys. They end up being the same thing. A flying monkey is a do boy, a do girl. Whoever is with them is going to do whatever they tell them. They're not really going to think too much. They're going to try to be neutral or in their favor, trying to avoid pushback. And, they always talk about the narcissist being fight or flight, but really, I think they enjoy fight or flight, because fight or flight for them is adrenaline and getting over on people. What is the best feeling for them is adrenaline. That's the best feeling of power and control. It's dominance. And that's why a lot of them not only get into witchcraft, but they get into voodoo, hoodoo, and all that type stuff. And you might think it's all the same, but what you'll come to find out, voodoo is for domination. It's all evil, but I'm just defining it a little bit for what I understand it to be for the little bit that I do know. Had to learn to protect myself. But this is what's going on, and how it affects you. This is the deal. If you know witchcraft is out there and it's real and it's trying to affect you, and you understand what the red flags of a narcissist are, you're going to be keen to it. When you're keen to it, it doesn't have the same effect. If you know that it's possible, and you know all narcissists carry the ability to spell through witchcraft, whether it's innate now in them and they're not practicing practitioners or they are, does not matter. They all have that seed. They're all equally yoked. It's just some are more evil than others because they choose to dive into it and accept it. Others want to just sit there and deny it. And that's where you get the different sides to the spectrum. Or some are interested in a certain lust. Like if they're just into getting it on with people, then that may be their main program. And that's where all their supply is going to come from. And they can't stop having intercourse with people. Or people that are addicts of substances, same thing, stuck in their own cycle. But nevertheless, it's destroying them and it's destroying the people around them. And that's the deal. It's to hold the light worker down to destroy them, ingrained in them to believe a certain ideology, certain way of thinking, certain mentality, a certain mindset. And it gets them completely off the balance of what God put into following the laws of the universe. Don't cheat, don't lie. You reap what you sow. Going to do something, it's going to cause a reaction. And that reaction is the butterfly effect. Your one movement is going to cause somebody else to do something else. Everything causes a ripple in the matrix. They're controlling all the ripples in the matrix, and they're all for their benefit. And that's why they pump fear into the television and to all these streaming apparatuses that we have, because it's funneling that energy to supply the enemy's kingdom, because the enemy's kingdom is built on needing supply. That's it. Whatever the narcissist is what Satan is. So that's why when the Bible talks about him being powerless, he's really powerless when you operate not only in your universal way of thinking correctly, but you have to, this deal, you have to be passionate about it. So if you're not passionate about it, it's not going to really work. And, unless they're more passionate than you and can get you to flip energy with them and they're passionate in an evil way, that would work, because it's still a passion. You see how they're manipulating everything. So it's a passion, but it's a passion in an evil way. They're basically anointed to be evil. That was their true destiny For some people, you got to accept the fact that that was their true destiny. Whatever. Okay. What Lucifer became, that was what he was supposed to be. I mean, that was what he was destined to be. And so the same goes with using him as an example. He was just an angelic host, and then he just became a fallen host. So at the time when God created the heavens and the earth, that was like the people of the earth, or the people that existed were called angels, and they were in a different form than we are, and they had a different set of rules and a different way of doing things, but it was kind of, everything is a reflection. So it's a reflection. What earth is a reflection to some degree of what heaven is. You're going to work in heaven. I mean, you're going to have authority in heaven, different authorities, council. You're going to have something that seems like a judicial system. You're going to have courts in heaven, but they're not going to be at the level of degradation that you see on the earth, nor will you see evil, because it will be non-existent. So they will exist, but they may exist from courts relating to what goes on between heaven and the vicinity of hell. I don't know. But there's always a reflection of what you see on earth is going to be a reflection to some degree of what heaven would be like in its purest state. And so the enemy needs supply is my point, because if you're fake, you need supply, and everybody in hell is fake. Now, you still need Christ. You can believe whatever you want. I'm just saying you still need Christ. I'm not to take away from that. What I'm trying to do is define for you a little bit more logically of what the Bible is kind of trying to say a lot of times, that people don't dive into it deep enough. And some don't care, and some just believe. That's the problem. You have to dive into the word as it being the living word, and not get off track from the balance of center in the word. The word has all the answers. Somehow, some way, it's a very spiritual book. And that's why they're always trying to corrupt it with different ideologies, with denominations and translations. They've gotten us so confused about certain situations of it in this world we live in today. And that's why, to some degree, there is a universal law. So that if the Bible got so corrupted, you would still be able to naturally find God. There would be enough out there to still find God using your discernment and intuition. But what lights them up is that mask and filling themselves insatiably by any means necessary. I mean, they get to a point to where something, convince them that they have to always thieve and to get ahead, and the easy button or the easy pill or the answer to all is the way that is opposite of you, the opposite of a light worker, the opposite of humanity. It's demonic. So the universal laws are the general laws that God put into the foundation. They will eventually balance out and equalize. And that may come from a smaller and smaller group of people. That's kind of why I talked about the 144 in the Bible. The 144,000 is probably what it broke down to during the times of the tribulation. It got that small. Like, all the people in the world, only 144,000 were the fervent soldiers of the Lord. But it didn't matter. God just gave them 144,000 enough power to balance everything out regardless, because it's going to balance out. Bitch, please. It's going to balance out, bitch. And it did with the tribulation. And that's what it led up to. And they weren't afraid to die. They were saints. They were the remnant. The 144,000 spoken of were the remnant, and they were full on passion of God. And they got more and more passionate as there were less and less of them. It was just the natural way of moving energy. But what lights you up is to help others and to help yourself, but help yourself by loving yourself and by growing in wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, chiseling out what you are here and meant to do was to grow and not to lose, not to go the other way, degrade, not to impersonate. They're doing all of the things they were not sent here to do. Humanity is sent here to grow, to learn, to prepare for your next level, which is heaven, right? And this is all the test, right? The test of, if we look at you down here on earth, do we want you in heaven? It's almost like you're filling out an application for heaven, and you can't deny what you did because it's all recorded. And that's why we're here. We're here to walk out who we are always meant to be. That's why the narcissist is nature. It's not nurture, period. It's not. Whatever they were going to be, they chose it between God creating them and God placing them in their mother's womb, period. And you as well, everybody. And anybody that makes a choice to change here on the earth, it was always meant for them to be what they were meant to be, which means they were jaded for a time. They went through times in their life where they allowed circumstance to jade them, but it didn't corrupt them. Jading and corrupting are two different things. To corrupt is to ultimately destroy down to its foundation and rebuild it as evil, as what it was not supposed to be, or not, meant to be in God's genuine mapping. There's God's matrix and there's the enemy's matrix, if you want to look at it like that. And everything the enemy does everything the enemy does is to take God's matrix and to overlay it with his own, to make him non-existent and God non-existent. That's why they don't even want you to believe in the giants or the evil giants. Because if you believe in God, you have to believe in the enemy. You can't believe in one without the other, So it kind of, it rolls like that. It rolls like that. It's all the same. This is deep shit, y'all. This is deep stuff. But what lights you up is for you to grow and for you to chisel out your authenticity and your genuine self more and more. And as you do that, and it also comes with you looking to the courts of heaven as you're a sovereign being to the courts of heaven, not to this earth at all. That's why it says in the word, you're in the world, but not of the world. You're a sojourner. You are just passing through, to where others, this is the best they'll ever get, because from here it goes down. Their next life is permanently, and it's not going to be good. And eventually they will be blotted out. But the enemy needs supply, and so does the narcissist. And the only thing that needs supply is something that, if you could look at your spirit, and what is as a fireplace. I was thinking about this morning. If you look at your spirit as a fireplace, what the narcissist does, instead of having reciprocity, which means that you have a give and a take to give balance to the world, as you take what, or as you receive what is yours. You give freely to the places and the people that deserve it as you receive what you deserve. And you are worthy of it, and you know that, and you call it in because you operate in love and you have self-love. But to receive and to truly be abundant, you have to have good boundaries, and you have to truly love yourself and respect yourself, which means you have to walk in a certain sort of integrity. And that integrity, the bottom line of that integrity is to follow the universal law that God put into the foundations of the world. That's the bottom. That's kind of like the bare minimum. And that's my point. You need Christ because Christ is what saves your soul. He's what really teaches you how to truly operate in those 9 fruits of the Spirit and to walk in that truth, that common sense, the true common sense. It's not very common anymore. You hear that a lot. But the Bible, the Word, will teach you common sense. Salvation will teach you common sense, true common sense. And it's imperative that you learn common sense. But your intuition, your discernment, all of those things are on a level of understanding that operates in true love. And that's why God is love and Christ is love, because it is really the reason I'm starting to understand why God would write a story and allow his son to be crucified. I think I've said before, like, why would you write a story like that? But he wrote a story like that because there's no denying that Christ had to embody nothing but the love of God to do what he did, and to stand behind it with passion. Just like the title of that movie, The Passion of the Christ. Ooh. And that's why you need Christ, because you need that true love. You have to understand that true love to do a lot of things, to be fully abundant. But that's the thing. You can't fake this stuff. That's why this stuff will never work for the narcissist. The narcissist is always looking to trick things, or how can they, I feel like that there's a lot of narcissists that watch my stuff and try to steal my information. You can steal it all day long, but it's not going to work for you, because when you're evil and corrupt, you have to steal it, and stealing it goes against everything. Being fake goes against everything. Being a lie goes against all of it. You can't fake. You can get around universal law. And this thing, it works for a while, but it destroys everybody around them. And eventually it comes back to destroy them. And if it doesn't destroy them, they'll get destroyed in judgment after they leave here, and then their lineage will get destroyed. Eventually it doesn't work and it balances out. And if it must be, there'll be less, like I said, there'll be less saints, and the same thing goes for this little short season we're in. We're not denied the Holy Spirit. We're not denied anything. We're just in a different timeline than we thought we were. We are in the enemy's little season. I don't care what anybody says. And the millennial kingdom has been hidden from you, but there's all of the knowledge is out there. If you seek out through your history and stuff, you'll find that a lot of things have been hoaxed, and all these structures on the earth are from that millennial kingdom. We can't build them today, but they built them with no technology. And there's not even just that. There's thousands of things that relate to that being our past and not our future. But the enemy, that's one thing he does, is he wants to convince you that you're in a different timeline, that you're still waiting on Christ, or that Christ was a lie because he said he was coming back and he made it sound like it was imminent, that it was going to be short. So he was a lie, but he's not a lie. It happened in a generation, 40 years. 40 years after his crucifixion, somehow, some way, around that 70 AD period, Nero was Antichrist, and that's what occurred. And they had technology, and it got burnt up in the fervent heat, and things you look at, that's hills and mountains, and those were old structures that got burnt up in the fervent heat. Thank you for watching.